welcome back everyone to the This Is Me podcast. I'm Karen.
And I'm Ellie, and today we have Laura joining us. Laura works for Network Rail, and she has a lot to say about working in a changing environment. So Laura, thank you very much for joining us today and taking the time to speak to us. And to get started, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Well, thank you very much for inviting me this morning. It's great to catch up again. I've worked for Network Rail for almost 20 years. I think I've got my 20 years coming up this September, which feels like a massive milestone in my life. I joined Network Rail as a graduate manager when I left university, having done a theology degree at King's College London. And I joined the General Management Graduate Scheme, which gave me a great insight into all areas of Network Rail. I've always been passionate about rail travel and a real advocate for using our trains in Great Britain. So it made complete sense for me to join the railways. I've done lots of different roles in Network Rail, some operational and some business roles, but it's given me a really good appreciation for how our great industry works. And I was also really privileged to spend a year working at the Department for Transport on secondment a few years ago, where I was looking at workforce reform in the year of the industrial relations disputes. So it gave me a really good lens as to a different part of our industry and how the different parts work together. Highlights in terms of roles for me I've done in Network Rail are managing some of our stations. So I was station manager at Charing Cross and Cannon Street during the Olympic Games.
Were you?
Wow. Yeah, I was. Yeah.
How was that?
It was brilliant. It was stressful, but it was also fantastic to play a part for London in 2012 and to feel like I was making a real difference in managing all the crowds going to Greenwich Park because they all travelled through Charing Cross and Cannon Street. So it was a really fun time to be a station manager. Stressful, but fun. Had a lot of volunteers.
What was the traffic uptake? Was it the footfall? Was it huge?
Well, it was very targeted depending on where the events were taking place.
Okay, I get you.
Charing Cross and Cannon Street, we were doing all the train services down to Greenwich Park for the
Right, I get you. You did say
yes. Guards parades where the beach volleyball was, and just London generally. So it was a lot of it, like targeted traffic on certain days with certain trains, but mainly they're all tourists, so they just wanted to have a great time. And we put on a bit of a party in the station with our volunteers and wayfinding and just, a bit of a feel-good atmosphere, but obviously a safe environment for the public.
Yeah.
It was a great time to be a station manager, and I never forget it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then, that's probably my standout role. But I'm very passionate about Network Rail and the part it plays in our country and prosperity. So real advocate for rail travel.
Yeah. So with the theology degree, how did that help you in the complicated world of work? Because I can only imagine that it actually did. It'd be really interesting to sort of see your thoughts on that.
Well, maybe it gave me divine inspiration. No, I think I didn't. There's probably no direct link between theology and the railways, but for me, theology was a subject that gave me an appreciation of history, language, because I learned New Testament Greek while I was doing theology.
As you do.
Yeah, exactly. It's very useful to know Koinios Greek. But no, I think that the degree was one thing. Being in London at King's College London just put me in the transport hub. And then I was just naturally curious about tube, buses, trains. So my sort of love of transport and rail probably just came from being in London. So no direct link between the degree and Network Rail, but just right place, right time. And
I understand.
Really enjoyed doing theology, so it's fantastic.
So in terms of it's a really male-dominated environment, isn't it? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that, about how you've navigated that, some of the things you've learned, like some of the stranger things you've had to learn how to do, maybe?
So I think Network Rail, when I first joined, so almost 20 years ago, very different to Network Rail today. So when I joined, I can't remember what the ratio male to female was, but I think it was broadly 90-10. But that's not reflective of how it is today. So we're a much more diverse organisation today, better female to male ratio, and actually fantastic for me to see much more women in senior and leadership roles. So that's really, really positive progress. Obviously, there's more to do, but I would say my general take on it is that there are great opportunities in Network Rail for women, some really fantastic policies to promote flexible working in the workplace, which I have personally benefited from and continue to promote to my other female colleagues. And I feel that there's a general nothing's off the table in Network Rail for women or women who have caring responsibilities. So I think that is real progress.
That's great.
So worked for some very senior, influential women in Network Rail who are on our executive leadership team and are really real big names in the industry. So and they are mums to children. So it's brilliant that we've got more diversity at our top and actually at all levels for our organisation.
Because you've been there for such a long time, you must have seen quite a lot of change over the years. How has that had any influence in like where you wanted to go in terms of your role or that, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so our industry is constantly evolving, and right now we are going through a big change. So we're moving from being Network Rail to Great British Railways, which is the setup of bringing track and train together, and that will come into being in 2027. So we're always on a journey, but we are on a particularly big reform journey at the moment.
Yeah, that sounds huge.
Yeah, and it's got to have legislation through Parliament to enable track and train to be one, because we've always been in a privatised, separate industry where track and train are very, very separate. And that doesn't drive the right incentives for passengers. So the purpose behind bringing them together is to have better outcomes for passengers and funders and stakeholders. So the industry is changing, and that means we need to change in Network Rail to be part of that journey. So for me personally, that means working more collaboratively with my train operator colleagues and understanding more about their business and actually how we can jointly work together to provide better train services, more punctual trains, and actually reduce the cost of running the train services in this country, which is high on the government's agenda.
Yeah, I should hope so, because it's astronomical.
Yeah, and I had sort of like a couple of weeks ago, we had some very bad disruption at Waterloo Station, which is one of Southern region where I work, one of our main stations. And I did some volunteering on the station in the evening. I did some volunteering at Waterloo Station, and a passenger came up to me to say, I've just spent £76 on my ticket for my daughter to go to Bournemouth. This is astronomically expensive. And so it's like really sort of challenging to sort of defend the cost of the price of the ticket to a passenger who's just really stuff about how much it cost. And so I just sort of spent 10 minutes talking to him about fares and actually how to look for different cheaper fares, and just trying to get on his level about things. But the conversation ended okay in the end. But to be put in that position to defend the cost of rail travel to a passenger is actually pretty challenging. And that's actually even it just highlights the need to simplify our fare structure and actually work together to reduce the cost of running services in the country, so the rail fares can be more affordable for passengers that want to travel. So lots of work to do there.
Well, hopefully some of the change will drive some of that. I mean, it's a hard nut to crack, isn't it, really? Because they're almost out of control now. So bringing them back, you've got to do something pretty radical, haven't you? In your current role, what sort of things do you get involved with then, if you're able to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So I work in Southern region, which is one of 5 regions in Network Rail. So Southern covers the southeast of England, so Kent, Sussex and Wessex. and Network Rail High Speed. And I'm a program manager in the change team. And what that means in practice is I've spent the last year looking at Great British Railways and mapping out the things we need to consider as a region to get our region ready for going into Great British Railways. So some of the specific things I've led on are I've worked with Southeastern, who is the train operator in Kent, and we've been on a sort of pioneering journey to Great British Railways, and we've actually set up the first track and train integrated leadership team. So we've got one single managing director, and underneath him, Steve, he's got a integrated team that are accountable for both track and train. So it's our first bringing together of Network Rail and the train operator to look at things in a more holistic fashion. And that's exactly
hybrid family.
Yeah. We have something called the Alliance Nod, which is when you find your best friend in the other company and work out how you can work better together. Yeah, no,
I think they need to be a little bit careful about that in the like the older Alliance Nod, aka a funny handshake or something. Oh dear me.
But in all seriousness, it took a lot of work to get that set up, established. We had to go through safety validation, legal approval, various board approvals, and government approval to do something different, and actually set up a team that had previously worked separately as two companies, but we are joining them together.
It's awesome.
As an integrated leadership team, and we're already starting to see the benefits of just two sets of people being in the same team. So for the first time, we've got train drivers, fleet maintainers, and signallers and mobile operations managers under one team. Another part of the organisation, we've got timetable planning and access planning now working together. So just from bringing those people together under one single leadership team, you can start to really harness the benefits of being aligned. And that's exactly what Great British Railways will do on a much, much bigger scale. But I'm proud that we've made the first integrated railway here in Southern, and now I'm now supporting the setup of a second integrated railway, which will be with South West Railway, who run all the trains out of Waterloo, and we're going to go through a similar exercise with South West Railway. So by the end of the year on Southern, we'll have two integrated railways set up.
That's brilliant.
Which I don't think anyone else has achieved elsewhere in the country.
Yeah.
So we are definitely leading the way. Great.
How did you find yourself, like, how did you end up being in this sort of like change, like management position? Is that something that you were interested in? How did you find yourself doing your job now, I suppose?
Yes, I think I said in my introduction that I did quite a few operational roles, and then I was fortunate enough to spend a year working on secondment at the Department for Transport, where I led on a lot of the advice to government on rail pay for Network Rail and train operators. During the year, we had the quite high-profile disputes with the RMT and ASLEF, which are the trade unions. So from being in that sort of government position, it gave me a different appreciation of different types of roles to do when I came back to Network Rail. So when I came back to Network Rail after a year of being in the government, I ended up being the business manager to one of our regional managing directors, so like an executive support position for Ellie, who is the regional managing director. So that was great, that role, because it gave me a real insight into sort of very senior stuff that goes on, and how the governance of Network Rail works, and how the
because I can imagine that is a beast in and of itself.
Yeah, and it was a very varied role to support a person that has huge responsibility for over like 6,000 employees and safety and £8 billion worth of spend on Southern region. So very varied portfolio. Working as a business manager for a couple of years was really interesting. And then that just naturally led on to me being quite an influencer in the change sphere, and a natural. I'm a natural collaborator, so it made absolute sense for me then to lead the integration work with our train operators on behalf of the region. That's pretty much where I got to today.
That's awesome. How have you like developed yourself? Because I think people who listen to this, lots of people know they need to do something, but they don't know how to do it. So we hope, like we're asking people, how have you like physically, not mentally or whatever, made sure you're able to deal with these challenges and made sure you're fit for the next role? It'd be really interesting to hear something about that.
Sure. So I think a couple of things stand out in my mind. I've got a fantastic network of good allies, I would call them, within our industries. So allies within train operators, within the Department for Transport, and lots of allies in Network Rail. So I draw on my network a lot for advice and talking things through and getting a different perspective on ways to tackle a problem. So that really helps. And then I also appreciate the value of coaching. So talking things through with someone independent who's outside of the organisation, just to get a fresh perspective and some advice on how to go about doing things. And actually a bit of self-reflection and challenge can be really, really valuable. So I think those two things probably stand out in my mind, as well as just giving things a go and taking a deep breath and thinking, well, I can always learn from this. I can always better myself if things don't go the way I set out in the first place. So, I think sometimes.
What do you think's been that's really interesting to listen to. What's been the biggest learning experience you've had where it might have been perhaps not the greatest of experiences, or it might have been the greatest of experiences, like you talked about being station manager at the Olympics, or what's been the biggest learning experience and how did you manage to take it as learning, not as like, and actually do something with it?
Oh gosh, that's a big question.
It's just interesting because sometimes you can remember it, can't you? And you think, God, that was the time, like when it really made me think about what I want to be as a leader, or like, or maybe it's actually being a working mum. That like that's another thing that a lot of people have reflected on this about how it's changed, how they are.
I think maybe learning experiences. Probably the thing I maybe regret, or I don't know if this is a great example actually, but
it doesn't matter. It's just interesting because
I think often there's I have been guilty of this in the past. As I've been approached to do jobs which are big jobs, influential jobs, and quite time after time I have always sort of said, "Oh, I'm not ready for that," or I looked at the job description, I can't, I can do 80 but not 20, so I'll pass it by this time, or it's not the right time for me personally. And I think I've probably overlooked myself for several good jobs that actually when I see the person that's gone into it, I'm like, oh God, I am better than them.
Maybe that's a really interesting one. It's what somebody who's been on our podcast used the phrase, if not me, who, didn't she? Do you know, like, and it's a really interesting thing because actually I am guilty of that as well. And you think, why didn't I go for that? Because look at them. Like, and it's like, and at that moment in time, I'm not going to say, like, if we risk, I think everybody risk assess things, don't they? And it's like a brain thing. And you think, oh no, I'm not. Usually with women, it's because they don't think they have everything. They're not 100% ready for it. And then you spend the next few months thinking, oh, look at them. But I think that is a really good example of like, but that's hard to change, isn't it? That's hard to change for the next time. It's like,
it is hard to change. And I've never beaten myself up about coming to that conclusion.
You shouldn't.
Because I've often prioritized things because of my children at home, and there's nothing wrong in doing that. But I do remember a conversation with a very influential lady at Network Rail, and she said, well, when you're debating whether you can do a job because of, what you can achieve on the job description and things at home, you have to ask yourself, would a man have this conversation? Put yourself in that position. Like, you have to have a different mindset. I can do 80% of that job description, so I'm more than qualified of doing it, rather than I can't do 20, so I'll pass it by. So it's I think a learning experience is not not overlooking yourself because of what you can't achieve. You've got to think about it more positively. So yeah, probably that.
No, I think that's good. Really interesting.
Because you said about like self. I'll put my teeth in and I'll try that sentence again. You said about self-reflection and how that sort of has come into it. And maybe, please tell me if I'm wrong here, because I've got an idea in my mind, but we have done bits of work with Network Rail in the past. And because it is sort of the backbone of the rail industry, and it's been around for as long as it's been around for, and things have worked the way that they've worked. There's a resistance to change. So to get that element, is that something that you've just found that you've had to do personally? Is it something that's becoming more encouraged, or is it, how's that got itself into your
I
role,
think
I
that's
guess?
probably been a personal thing for me rather than a company thing. And actually, I think the company is really good at making opportunities happen for the right person with the right values and behaviours. So, and I think Network Rail, we have to change because of the Great British Railways. That's coming, and we're already on that journey, and we're already getting different people in leadership positions to break the how Network Rail might be perceived because of how we've done things in the past. We are definitely wanting to get a simpler, better, greener railway for everyone, and you'll see that narrative coming through and how we approach things, how we pitch things, how we talk externally. So we are definitely changing, and changing for the better.
Yeah, cool.
I think what do I think about this? Having had some experience of the railways, but also worked for the Royal Mail, it's really hard. And that analogy of it's like turning an oil tanker is really true, isn't it? And I think it's interesting because it's not necessarily anybody's intent not to change. It's just that it's just hard to do it.
Well, it's so many people
huge.
work there. So many people have had, like, it's huge. So you can't expect it to change overnight. And well, we've always done it this way. And I get that, because can you imagine trying to implement change at that hard level is insane.
It's got a really, because if it's like different areas and all that, it's hard for people to be agile, isn't it? So I was going to ask you, how have you learned to be agile? And also working in the DFT, that must have been great. But how have you honed your skills to be an agile person in this? Because that you must have to be not necessarily always doing, but always thinking, like thinking about a situation, assessing it. And so tell us a little bit about Laura's agility. Sounds like a horse or a collie, but it's not.
No, agility is definitely a really important thing in our industry, and it's the agility to be brave and challenge the way things are done, and not be afraid to have that conversation and openly commit to change. Because there'll always be a large proportion of the camp that will say, well, you can't do X, Y, and Z because of X, Y, and Z, and that's the way we've done it for the last 10 years. So thank you very much, goodbye. But it's really about having the courage to break that mold, open that conversation, and try and find a way through to the outcome that needs to be achieved. And actually setting up the South Eastern Railway, where we did things for the first time that no one else has ever done. We had to literally break ice on bringing together two parts of what had previously been privatized parts of the industry. So I had personal experience of dealing with the can't do that because of X, Y, and Z. But we had a date, which was the 9th of June. We had to stand up this integrated leadership team with Southeastern. So we had a lot of senior help, senior focus, and will to make it happen. But we did have to unpick a lot of those conversations around, well, we can't do X, Y, and Z because we've done it this way for years, but it can be done.
But how have you personally done that then? Because you're really integral in this, aren't you? So how have you personally learned to do that? Because I think it's so interesting for people listening. Because having to do that, is really brave, really courageous, and you put yourself above the parapet, don't you?
Yeah.
And you may have had all of that help. You may have had it, but you personally have had to do something. So how did you approach it? What did you do differently?
Well, sure. So I had the vision of setting up this integrated
Brilliant.
railway with South Eastern.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah.
And that vision was shared and definitely bought into by a lot of senior people within the industry. So not only was the vision there, but there was the will to make it happen. So I had to sort of harness the energy from those senior people to come on that journey. So whether that was supporting with things around safety validation or appointing people into the right roles, and setting the cultural journey of bringing two organisations together, that all needed program management and keeping the vision alive. And it was great to be supported by Steve White, who is hugely influential in this space and had been in the position of being the sort of alliance managing director designate for 18 months. So he spearheaded the kind of want to make this happen. So I allied very closely with Steve and used his contacts and influences and his kind of desire to get things done. And between us, with other people on the journey as well, we got there. And
have you found that having that deadline, it was really critical? Because in the railways, there's a real performance culture, isn't there? People are really so the mindset is about the trains being on time. So did you find that, bear with me while I try and explain this madness that's going on in my head, did you find that having the deadline of the 9th of June really galvanised people as well?
Absolutely. So when we got the go-ahead back in February by Shadow Great British Railways to set up the integrated railway with South Eastern, they just said by May/June. And I think when you haven't got a firm date, people can wander and not feel like there's an urgency to the situation. But then Robin Gisby, who's the CEO of DFTO, just turned around and said, it's going to be the 9th of June, guys. Crack on.
Get on with it.
Actually, that's great, because that focus means of, right, we need to get X, Y, and Z done by these dates, so it all aligns. And having a date just firmly sets the critical milestones in people's minds. So.
It sort of plays to the strengths of everybody that works in the railways, though, doesn't it, as well? Like, it's a real, whether that was done deliberately or not, I don't think it was, but actually it does play to how people want to get things done, and they want to deliver it by the right time. So it's interesting to think about how you could use having a date in your influencing tactics.
And I'm about to go through exactly the same conversation with South West Railway to try and get a date. At the moment,
we did a little bit of work with South West Railway, didn't we, Ellie, down in Salisbury?
Oh my God, we back in the day, so we did.
Safety,
Oh, cool.
Ellie did the night shift. Was it which is the one that you did? Was it Croydon? You did Wimbledon.
We did Wimbledon and Clapham, I think.
Yeah. Clapham, that's it, not Croydon. Yeah, we did some work with them on safety culture, which was really interesting. But I know,
that's
small
great.
world, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a small world.
I'm sure that they're all changed from now, though. Sorry, Ellie.
Do you know? All I was going to say is, do you meet a lot of resistance with what you do, and if so, how are you navigating that?
I wouldn't say resistance, more challenge. So it's the work we're doing in Southern around integrating our railways is very high profile, well established, got senior support. So we don't really have resistance, because it's this is the way we have to go because of where we're.
You've got no choice. Yeah.
But I'd say challenge. Because I still think there is elements of protectionism and silo working within our industry. That means people are, protecting their part of the empire. And it's that mindset we really need to get out of to get the benefits of Great British Railways. So I've come up against that with some of the work streams for the integration with South Eastern around safety validation and legal framework. It's been tricky, and you sometimes have to meet a halfway house to get with parties comfortable with the forward direction of travel. But so I'd say challenge rather than resistance. But challenge, it can be overcome. We've not come up against anything that's been a total red line. Oh, you can't do X, Y, and Z. We have got there.
You must get quite a sense of satisfaction sometimes with what you do.
Yeah.
Do you? Does that make it sort of all?
Yeah, definitely
worth it, I guess.
Yeah, so I think a couple of like pride moments stand out for me with Southeastern. So we had a really great opening ceremony with the rail minister on the second week in June, where Peter Hendy, who's the rail minister, officially unveiled the integrated railway for Southeastern on a very hot day at Hither Green Station in London. But it was fabulous to showcase the leadership team to Peter, show some of the integrated work we'd done at Hither Green Station, and show off some of the work we're doing with other parties that support the railway, so British Transport Police in terms of anti-trespass and suicide monitoring at the station. So it was great to put on a uniform front to the rail minister and actually show what the railway can achieve. That was a really proud moment. We got some great press coverage from that as well, so that was good. And then little things like when we've done press releases with Southeastern, David Davidson, who's the Chief Operating Officer now for the Southeastern Railway, is quoted in a lot of the press releases. And actually he's got one of the biggest roles in that team as leading the drivers, the fleet and the Network Rail operations and maintenance. So you feel like, his name's out there externally as leader of track and train. And actually that's all come about from the work we've done with Southeastern. So that, I feel quite proud of those things.
If you look back over your 20 years ago to the Laura that joined on the graduate management one, and you look to where you are now, would you ever have imagined that's what you were doing? Or, how does it feel if you sort of take a look back at I'm not going to say young Laura, but younger Laura?
Sorry, just before you answer that, earlier on when you said you'd been there for 20 years, I thought, well, when did you start? When you were 14?
Oh, thank you.
You've got amazing skin.
I have
talk about skincare in a little bit.
No, I had my big 4-0 in December last year. So I joined Network Rail when I was 21. So
okay, so you were young.
I don't know. I never thought I'd stay this long in Network Rail. It's got under my skin, and I like Network Rail as part of my DNA now, and I really love the railways. So I don't think I'm going to move outside of the industry. I might go to a different part of the industry.
Well, there's plenty of opportunity, isn't there?
So. And I think that's probably the fascinating thing for me about NR is we're 42,000 employees. So I've always felt there's great opportunities, and it's like its own world within one company. So there's so much to move around and do different things. And I think that's been part of the reason I've stayed, is because there's so much choice of interesting roles. And opportunity to make a difference to the communities that we serve. So it's kept me going. And
I stayed at Asda for 22 years. And when people ask why, I reckon I had about 18 different jobs, and it was a growing company, and it was like culture and actually work for different people. So I think there's a real classic quote by a guy called Tom Peters, who's he was an American guru of change back in the day. I've got a signed book from him. He signed it for something I did at Asda. Yes, it's somewhere in this nonsense. But he said something that's a real truism, which is, if you say you've worked somewhere for 20 years, but every year has been doing the same, you've only done 1 year's experience. And I think it's really truthful that sometimes in this world of change and you must move on, sometimes actually being in the same place gives you more opportunities than dashing about, and it's not about focusing on the length, it's about focusing on what you've done. And that's why I asked you a question about 20 years ago. If you look at your career and you look at where you are, it's pretty amazing, really. And would you have done that in a different company if you'd moved around? So I think it's just interesting for people listening to think about, you can become the person you want to be in the same company. And you know, to hear you say that, you know, like the minister was there and you were really proud and like, you know, like and that nobody else has done it. You may not have been able to do that in another company, because when you go to new companies, you're always building networks and you're always learning. So I think it's just a reflection for me, which is sometimes length of service when you're doing the right things, particularly for a woman, because network is so key. Is really means you're able to tell us with your pride, even though you say it's everybody else that's done it, we know you've had a pivotal part in it.
I couldn't believe it took you so long to say that. That was crazy.
I was asking, come on, what did you do then?
I know. I realised you were being quite like pointed at that question.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
I wasn't doing it. I was doing it deliberately, but not to be challenging. But it's just sometimes for women, sometimes we're the worst of our kind for actually. I remember when I left Asda and I was going for another job, and I had this coach, and she said to me, "What did you do then?" Karen, I went, "Well, we did this, we did this." She went, "No, stop saying we." Like, what did you do? And I'm like, "No, but the team did it." And I thought I was going to pull my teeth out. It was 4 hours. She goes, "You need to tell me what you did." And I'm like, every bone in my body was like, "It was the team." But I guess why I'm saying that is, I guess sometimes to know your own strengths for women and that resources you don't have to brag about it, but actually, you know, like it's pretty awesome what you said. So I was just interested in the Laura of 20 years ago when you started as a 14-year-old. Sorry, I was rambling there. I just think it's really interesting, because actually you are breaking ground here in that rail.
Definitely.
Massively so.
Yeah, 100%. Like, you know, like it's just huge.
Yeah, it is huge, and it's the way the industry's going. So to have a hand
and to be part of that must be awesome.
No, it's really good. It's really, really nice.
Do you find it easy to not take responsibility for? So it's huge what they're trying to do with Great British Railways, and there's going to be a lot of, not anything to do with current people, but there's going to be a lot of challenges. Are you finding it easy to not try and take responsibility, like let's say HS2, which has gone on forever and ever? Are you finding it easy to just take responsibility for what you're in control of and what you can influence?
Yeah, definitely, because the work to bring Great British Railways into being in 2027 is vast, because there's
it's huge.
There's 14 separate train operators, Network Rail, regulator, DFT, DFTO. There's so many component parts that if you try and think of it as one project, I can't get my mind around it. So
that's why I was asking, because you could, if you are someone that likes to know what you've achieved, which a lot of women do, actually your achievements got to be attainable. So I sound like a maths report there. So.
Which is why I think of my contribution as the track and train integration in Southern. And actually, I spend a lot of my time sharing that learning with other parts, other train operators and parts of the Network Rail that are going through the same sort of journey. So, for example, tomorrow I'm meeting someone from Great Western Railway who's going on a similar journey, and talking to him about what we've done on Southeastern and what we're doing on Southwestern, so it can inform their decisions on how to progress things over there. So there's a lot of collaboration and networking goes on in that space for sure.
How do you keep yourself up to date with, because there must be lots of things about legislation, white papers, all the governance. How do you fit that in with your working life, your family life? You know, like how do you assimilate that? Because there must be lots of things you have to read.
There's a lot of information, but it can be disseminated in like digestible formats. So whether it's briefings or being part of community of practice groups where you get people together from different parts of the industry and talk about an area of reform, and they're really useful. Or actually just, you know, good old WhatsApp with people that are on the know about what's going on. You actually build up a lot of information just through having those personal interactions with the right people. So it's a mixture of all three, really. But I certainly don't,
because you're living in the present, you're dealing with the past, and you're trying to create the future, aren't you? Which is like I'm not saying you're exhausted, because you look really well, as we've told you, your skin's great.
I'm 14.
But actually it's a really good skill set that interests me about how you do that, because actually you are living in a 3-dimensional, you know, company, and it's just really interesting.
And also what you what you might read one day can be out of date by the end of the week. So yeah, I definitely cherry pick what I choose to read.
I'm going to ask you something you might not know the answer to, and you might not want to answer it. How we haven't started to have this conversation quite a lot on some of the podcasts, but how is AI helping or hindering? Because everybody can be an expert.
Yeah, well, so AI is interesting. So I've got a co-pilot license at Network Rail. So I use the kind of co-pilot to help me with some of my work.
For a minute, then I thought you meant you were flying a plane.
Honest
then I
to
realised
God,
what you were
so
talking
did
about.
I thought, wow.
Network Rail's got co-pilot licenses for certain people in the organisation who might have a need for it, and
I did get that.
So it's useful for notes at meetings and summarising conversations. But I do need to do more, and I've got a guy that works for me who's a lot younger, and he uses AI all the time for everything. And I've got to be more in the mindset like Stuart and think this is part of my job now, not just something I used to use from time to time. Because I think I was talking to someone about AI, and they said if you don't use AI, not that you'll be looked over for a job, but it will be it'll be expected that you'll be able to use it. So
I like the old PowerPoint and Excel of days gone by.
It is the future. And actually, yesterday I was working over at Southeastern, and I was talking to a colleague about how to get around quite a tricky problem I've got with another project. So we put the problem into ChatGPT, and it came out with a pretty good answer. I was quite impressed.
My brother is really into it, and he's taught me loads, and I use it for a lot of things. But one of the most, sorry, this is so off piece. I put into it, my husband and I are going to Canada for a few weeks, and I wanted to understand the itinerary and ask the questions. I put it into Google Gemini, which I really like, and said, could you do me an itinerary and ask all the questions that this doesn't answer? It was amazing.
Oh, wow.
Like, I was like, hey, I know. So I think if you go with discernment and understanding, because I think you still need critical thinking, because what you put in, you can get rubbish out. But it's just interesting that it's starting to have a presence, and you've got varying degrees of competence across probably the age range and the interest. And I wondered how it was coming across, when people are trying to disseminate information quickly, but actually you won't get the nuances of a lot of things, will you? So I just was interested, actually.
I think it's good for getting it to look at a report and summarising the key the exact summary. I think it's useful for that. And maybe if you say, highlight 3 things that I need to be aware of from this report, it will pull that out. So there's definite use for it. But as you say, you can't replace that with a brain of someone that
with the wisdom. You can't replace it with
the wisdom.
Yeah.
No,
definitely.
No, you can't.
Sorry,
that was a sidetrack.
No, so what does the next sort of 6 months look like for you?
Yeah, so the next 6 months is surprisingly about rail integration with South West Railway, and there'll be some work coming up to do a similar piece of work with some of our railways on Anglia, so Greater Anglia and C2C, as they're joining the public ownership group DFTO. In fact, C2C are already in, and GA will come in later this year. So that will bring 4 integrated railways into the portfolio by the end of this year or early next. So my future is all about integration, and then in terms of next year, I'm not quite sure exactly what that holds, but we'll be closer then to Great British Railways. So the integration stuff will naturally speed up and evolve. And Southeastern are already talking about wanting to do a phase 2 of deeper integration with Network Rail. So plenty of opportunities coming up in scope. Yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, good. Really brilliant.
And a bit of time for some hot holidays, I hope.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, holidays and secondary school applications for my daughter. So personal stuff as well as work.
Yeah, now that's secondary. If you can cope with those challenges you've talked about in secondary school, I was going to say it might be easier, but I don't think it will be.
Depends on the child, I'd say, because I'm not sure that was the case for my mum when when we went.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, Karen, do you want to ask that last question? Because I stole your question. My apologies.
Yes, you can do. Yeah, me and Ellie, they're consummate professionals here. So we're really interested in asking people about if they had a song that summed up their life or summed up part of their life. We're gonna, when we've done a number of podcasts, we're going to create a playlist. So yeah, I know. Yeah, we thought it'd be quite, because everybody's songs are like really. Some people say some songs you think, oh, I never thought about that. So yeah, that's the aim. So what would your song or songs be?
Well, so Ellie kindly gave me a little bit of notice about this question.
Yeah,
so
we've thrown some people.
Funnily enough, I took the kids up to their holiday camp just at the top of the road this morning, and I said, "Oh, Mummy's going to be asked on a work call later about a song that describes her life," and so they were giving me lots of lots of suggestions as to what Mummy's song should be. So apparently, I should be Demi Lovato, "Cool for the Summer," because I'm cool for the summer.
Okay,
that's cool.
That's really sweet.
Yeah, I should take that. Yeah.
And then my daughter Grace loves Coldplay, "Viva La Vida," so that was obviously the song Grace picked for me. But I think the song I love, and I love this for many different reasons, is Depeche Mode, "Enjoy the Silence," which might seem like a strange choice, but I actually genuinely love the song, and I find it like really mysterious to listen to, and I do love Depeche Mode anyway. And I think actually there is something in those words, "enjoy the silence," about having some downtime and having some reflection time, and there's nothing wrong in switching off from the world of crazy work and just
100%.
And generally that. And there's also a song that I used to, when I was working at the DFT, I had to walk from Victoria Station to Horseferry Road every day, which is about 15 minutes. And I associate that song with that walk. And I don't know why, just something that I'm just really drawn to with that song. Yeah, just love it. So,
brilliant.
That's great.
That's great. Yeah. Well, this has been really interesting. Yeah. No, this has been really interesting. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to us about it.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And thank you to everyone for listening, and we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.